Well, hey everybody, John Rethlin here, and this is hashtag Ask for Honesty episode 18. You guys sent in so many great goddamn questions. I could have recorded this yesterday afternoon, but I was working and I was too tired when I got home. But thank you guys so much for the great questions in the comments, via Twitter DM, via tweet, just in general. Thank you guys so goddamn much, and I will answer as many questions here and in episode 19. Any others I will answer in episode 20, and that will probably be up sometime Sunday afternoon. 18 and 19 will be up today. So thank you guys. I really do appreciate the support and the fact you trust me, a wrestling fan, to answer your questions, fellow wrestling fans, and music and movie related ones. So thank you guys so much. If you want to send a question, leave a comment below this video. Limit 3 to 4 questions, otherwise I might have to split them up among 2 shows. But do send in more if you would like. I just may not be able to get to them all in the same show. Or hit me up in a Twitter DM and send me 3 to 4 questions, again, any more, split among the shows. Or check the pin tweets I put up Tuesday and Thursday mornings. Use the hashtag AskForHonesty, the wrestling, music, or movie-related questions. Let's stay away from the politics. Just check my Twitter if you want to know my opinions. But anyway, let's get right into it with 4 questions from Elena. But firstly, the first question she asked is something that somebody else, a couple other people asked right after. Elena did ask it first, I will say that much. But everybody else has this, Will Ospreay, Seth Rollins Twitter feud in mind. So, Valena first said, thoughts on Rollins being an insufferable corporate kiss-ass via his Twitter feed. That Saudi blood money stained his brain cells. Great line to end that, by the way, Valena. But then we have WWE NXT guys saying, roughly the same thing, or asking roughly the same thing. Thoughts on the pissing contest and Twitter fight between Will and Seth, and also Catwoman 13. I wrote these down on 2 separate pieces of paper. That's how much goddamn material you guys gave me, and thank you guys. But Catwoman 13 says, your opinion on the whole Seth Rollins being a corporate kiss-ass jerk he's been on Twitter lately, and the whole thing with Will Ospreay. With him and Will Ospreay. I want to say right now that Seth Rollins saying this shit, he was being a kiss, whether it was the company telling him to say it or Seth Rollins just is naturally a jerk and is just like frustrated and is just going to take it out on other people other than himself, and maybe that he isn't the draw he thought he was. Don't get me wrong, Seth Rollins is still more of a draw than the draw Sami Callihan, who's a fucking idiot, by the way. But anyway, Sami Callihan's idiocy aside, and the fact he can't fucking wrestle at all, his lack of ability and garbage wrestling aside, Seth Rollins came across like a goddamn jerk. He came across like a goddamn idiot, a petty asshole that really doesn't understand that he was one injury away from being right back in, New Japan, Ring of Honor, or that kind of stuff. Actually, I don't know if he wrestled in New Japan all that much, but he was right back to being in smaller companies. Even though some smaller companies are doing better than they were when Rollins was around, like in Ring of Honor, still, he's in the biggest company, and he's lucky to be there. And a lot of others are lucky to be there, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say that Will Ospreay is totally a saint. If you check out and Google Will Ospreay controversial tweets and posts, you will see a boatload of shit and stuff that he should not say. I mean, I'm going to say that right now. Will Ospreay is not a fucking saint. Now, I'm not saying he hasn't matured over a few years, but some of the stuff he said, not exactly great. Not exactly great. But that aside, taking just this fight, yes, Valena, the Saudi blood money did stain his brain cells, so to speak. But you could also say that about a lot of people that go there. And I agree with you, Seth Rollins being one of the big guys, he should have the right to say no. It's like, no, I'm not going to go. The problem is they want the titles defended, so then Seth Rollins will be undercutting his own title reign, which has been a fucking flop anyway, because let's be honest, after his, fight with AJ, or his match with AJ at Money in the Bank, which actually was a pretty good match, that feud with Baron Corbin has been fucking rotten, and Seth Rollins is not the draw that people thought he was. Now, it's not just him that could be drawing. It's got to be the whole brand. WWE did not do well in the Pacific Northwest here. They did not do well at Stomping Grounds, which of course is where we kick ass and take names, or at Raw Everett. They only did a third, they only filled a third of that 10,000 seat arena, and apparently the Portland, Oregon SmackDown only had like 2,000 people. Which ain't good at all. Because that was like a 19,000 seat arena, and even if you take out the obstructive views for the stage and all that stuff and everything, you're still looking at about 16,000, 15,000 people. That's not good at all. Seth Rollins is not the sole reason that WWE can't draw a house. And I'm not saying that's part of your question, but that's kind of going in on some of this, where Seth may be getting frustrated maybe fans are blaming him. Oh, you're a lousy champion. You're this kind of stuff and this and that. I'm not saying he's been a great champion. I hate to say it, but Seth Rollins, as good of a performer as he is a very good performer in the ring. Attitude-wise, nothing wrong with having an attitude, nothing wrong with being a bit of a kiss-ass, because it worked for Shawn Michaels for a number of years. Hopefully Rollins doesn't have the drug issues that Shawn Michaels in 98 had. But the comparing the bank account, Seth, that knee injury remember that knee injury you suffered? Like Seth was going to watch this. That knee injury that you suffered in 2015. You know who would have paid for that if WWE wasn't employing you? You would have paid for it, you stupid motherfucker. That's who would have fucking paid for it. Good fucking grief. Nobody would have taken care of him like WWE did. And that's not to say that Seth Rollins is disposable or anything, but, like that kind of stuff. He's suffered the knee injuries. He's had issues and this kind of stuff. And look, wrestling ain't ballet. People get, crazy, take crazy bumps, that kind of stuff. Going to Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay took that crazy bump at Sakura Genesis. That freaking Spanish Fly where he brained himself doing that, Spanish Fly off the apron, which of course, hardest part of the ring with Marty Scurll. And that was the one where he knocked himself out and he was bleeding like crazy, almost scalped himself for God's sakes. Ospreay will land and do some insane things, and he's got to stop doing that or he ain't going to live to be 30. Or he ain't going to be walking by 30 at least. But with this, if you look at the whole tweet exchange and everything, it's brought up Will Ospreay capitalized by using the little guy thing, even though Will Ospreay is taller than Seth Rollins. But then again, Seth Rollins usually comes up short when it comes to being compared to other guys. Oh, yeah, I said that. I brought up something old. I'm sorry. Maybe that's why you don't take those pics and let them get leaked. Just saying. Because if we're going to blame women for it, then we can blame the guys for it too. Just saying. But Seth Rollins comes across like a goddamn kiss-ass. He comes across like a goddamn idiot. Now, if the company's telling him to say this, okay, whatever. He ain't got no Twitter game, though. He's got no Twitter game. I sound so fucking white saying that. He's got none. Will Ospreay, who is not the smartest individual in the world. I mean, you hear interviews with him and that kind of stuff, and I'm not saying he's an idiot. I'm just saying he's not exactly, smart. If he can wipe the floor with Seth Rollins has no fucking chance. Oh, the whole -6 stars Dave thing, and then Dave Meltzer responding to that was not Seth Rollins' fault. That was Dave Meltzer being a fucking pansy, because it was about, oh yeah, when Meltzer, and I know I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, when Meltzer said that stuff about Peyton Royce. Good job, Meltzer. You kept showing yourself being a goddamn idiot here. But with this, Seth Rollins, if he is number one, if he's in the number one company, don't acknowledge number two. But the bottom line is that Seth Rollins is probably pissed because people are saying, oh, there are better wrestlers than him. There are about 20 wrestlers better than Seth Rollins that I can name. And I'm not going to name them all here, but I'll throw Okada up there better than him. Omega, I don't know if I'd say Omega is better than Seth Rollins. Omega can be flashier. I don't know if I'd throw Tanahashi there right now, but fucking AJ Styles, others. I'd throw Adam Cole, baby. I'd throw a whole bunch of other people in there. I mean, you can name a lot. Will Ospreay is better than Seth Rollins. Now, if you switch them, Rollins would probably have better matches in New Japan. Ospreay would have to slow down his styles because it is two different tours. It's all, it's two different brands. WWE runs a whole lot more. New Japan has long tours, but then takes time off. So it's totally understandable why, there would be this pissing contest between them, but also the fans. It also could be a work. It also could be a fucking elaborate work, and we could all be getting worked and everything. They could be real friends, and they could be sitting down laughing, or they could be on the phone, ha ha ha, or Seth, ha 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 ha. That kind. I can't really do Seth Rollins' laugh, but you know what I'm talking about. They could all be laughing at us. We could be buying a hook, line, sinker. But taking in a vacuum, Seth Rollins looks like a goddamn idiot, goddamn corporate kiss ass, and he does not look like the stable kind of person. If he's getting rattled by this kind of stuff, if it's actually true and not a work, if he's getting rattled by this, yeah, he's not the type of guy you really want to fucking invest in. And he's been a pretty lousy Universal Champion. Now, he's been better than Brock because he at least shows up. But, hate to say it, they might want to just put the title on somebody else. Not Baron Corbin, but maybe have Drew McIntyre beat Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. And do something like that. And get the title off him and put Rollins in the mid-card. Because at this point, I don't really think that Seth Rollins should be seen as the guy. I don't. And Will Ospreay, once again, not totally taking his side. I mean, in this chat, I will, in this particular exchange. But I also have some issues with some of the stuff and some of the opinions that Will Ospreay has. Now, granted, you're talking to me, Mr. Controversial Opinion, so, or the Unhinged, or whatever label people want to give me. I actually put the Unhinged in my, my channel information here. But anyway, yeah, Will Ospreay won this here, and Rollins seems like a petty little bitch. So I hope I answered the myriad of the 3 questions here and stuff like that. And the Saudi blood money, yeah, I really wish that deal could be ended because it's just not a good look for anybody. I mean, Valena, you agree. Everybody agrees watching this. It's, yes, stupid money, but it's also stupid that women can't go and perform over there because the government's full of a bunch of goddamn clueless twats. But anyway, Valena, I'm going to get to your second question here, so I hope I answered that okay. Question number 2, why do you think Alexa Bliss is getting yet another title shot against Bayley? And she lists some other people here. Sonya, Ember, Liv, Mandy, Zelina, etc. are all better choices than Alexa Botch, which, to be fair, Alexa does botch quite a bit. Let's see, I'm so done with this company not showcasing the other talents, and they wonder why the ratings are god-awful. I totally fucking agree with you, and Alexa Bliss has really good character work. She does. Now, I did do a unpopular wrestling opinion about Alexa and AJ Lee, and people tended to agree with it. Some people didn't. They didn't like that I called out the obvious, that neither were that good in the ring. My opinion. I'm not saying they're serviceable in the ring. I wasn't saying they were bad. But this is what I gotta say about Alexa. They're desperate, and Vince sees her as being an established commodity instead of wanting to invest in other people. Like, the Pride shirt back here, which, by the way, I've decided from now on, instead of just for Pride Month, I'm just going, if I don't put it up there, I'm going to put it here on my TV. I'm going to put the Pride shirt up under, in the background of every single solo video I do from now on. Unless I totally forget. If I do, please remind me and I will make sure to rectify that because I feel the LGBTQ community should be represented. But anyway, let's take a look at the women that you mentioned. Sonya. They seem to be teasing this whole thing with Sonya and Mandy, and I'll get to that in another question, possibly in the next episode. And Mandy could be used better. I know that they only have 2 hours of time on SmackDown, but the wildcard rule is fucking killing it. It's absolutely fucking killing it. Ember is somebody that could be used better. I mean, Sonya and Ember could have gone out and had a nice little 7-8 minute match, or at least a good little 7-8 minute match, and they gave them like 85, 90 seconds on SmackDown? Bullshit. I know it was via distraction, and then, the dreaded roll up and everything, but the bottom line is those women deserve better. Liv has not been seen on SmackDown since when? Since being drafted. What the fuck? Now, Mickie James is injured, and Zelina is basically relegated to being Andrade's mouthpiece. No, not that kind. Yes, I do agree with you that the ratings falling, this has got to factor into it. If you have the same damn women, and nothing against Becky, nothing against Lacey. Charlotte's been backstage, not really featured all that much. Maybe she wanted time off. I know Andrade lost his mother recently. I think he lost his mother and his aunt, so she might be consoling him. And no, I don't mean like that. I mean legit. It's terrible to lose family. Hopefully, Charlotte is going to be okay. But maybe taking her off TV for a little bit isn't a bad idea. It just occurred to me now that Charlotte has not been featured on TV all that much, and that's probably a good thing. Mickey's injured, and I love Becky, and I love Lacey. But they're going to need to focus on other women from Raw, and that's actually going to factor into another question here later. WWE needs to use their women better. Now, the women are not going to be everything that moves the ratings needles, or the rating needle, but it's going to be a factor. The women can be a major factor, and the fact that they aren't being utilized to their full ability, is pretty ridiculous. Alexa Bliss is not worth the time they're investing for a continuous feud against somebody that's on a separate brand. That's the problem. If Alexa was on SmackDown, okay. Or if Bayley was on Raw and she was the Raw Women's Champion and Becky was a SmackDown Women's Champion, you get my point. Okay. But they're not even being featured. Asuka and Kairi haven't even been featured. Why even have all these women on the roster if you're not going to use them? And I'm not saying use everybody every single week. I'm not saying that it needs to be 6, 8 woman tags every single week just as a way to get some feuds going and get everybody on the show. But if you're not even going to use some women for like a month, or when you use them, it's really just some stupid backstage segments. I mean, even Carmella, who I'm not the biggest fan of, has been relegated just being Truth's side piece, which then again, she's Corey's side piece, so whatever. But the whole point is, if you're not going to use the women better, especially the ones that you listed, yeah, it's going to lead to some tanking ratings because people are going to be like, well, why are we going to invest in the women if they're just going to keep doing the same goddamn thing? So, yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. Alexa doesn't deserve it. Hopefully this leads to Nikki Cross, feuding with Alexa, and Nikki Cross beats Alexa and whatever. Just, I think they need to get Alexa out of the ring. Just get her out of the ring. Her character work is fine. I'm not saying get her out of the company. Her character work's fine, but the way she takes bumps and the fact she has not been featured all that much, at least like in the ring, and when she is, she doesn't really do much. Look, not everybody's cut out for wrestling, and maybe she isn't. She can be a manager, she can have her own talk show, this kind of stuff. They could utilize that. But I think this needs to be done, and needs to be done very, very soon. Stick people to their own goddamn brands. It's fucking ridiculous. And now we go to number 3. What the hell is from Valena also? What the hell is the end game with Shane? I'm very, very sorry. The end goal with Shane. I'm pretty sure he's going to be Taker clean Extreme Rules. I've had it with this damn company. I don't blame you. And he probably is going to beat Taker clean. I've said it before. I'll say it again. And this is what I fear. The end goal is him beating Kofi at SummerSlam for the WWE Championship. That's what I fear. It would be stupid, but would you be surprised if they did that? I don't mean just you. Would you be surprised if anybody else did that? I wouldn't be, because I think it would be pretty fucking goddamn rotten, goddamn horrible. Will he beat Taker clean? This is how I would do it. And shout out to @WrestleRant for his Ask GSM video, most recent Ask GSM video. But somebody suggested Drew just smashing through Undertaker, and once they got into that match, and Drew pinning Undertaker clean. Right there. That's what I would do. Or maybe lead to Drew and Undertaker at SummerSlam, even though I wouldn't want Undertaker to wrestle anymore, and Drew just beats him in like 5 minutes. And that's what I would do. That being said, Shane's probably going to pin Undertaker, and then they're probably going to have Shane pin Kofi at SummerSlam in an overbooked match. It's going to ruin Kofi. It's going to ruin the WWE title, and everything is going to fucking burn. Now, I will say this. The smart thing would be to keep the title on Kofi, or they could switch the title to Roman Reigns, but then, you know what they'd be doing? They'd be going right back to what they were doing last year before Roman Reigns' tragic cancer diagnosis. Thankfully, he has recovered from that. But it would be going right back to everything where we're doing Super Cena, Super Roman, and it didn't work then, and it's not going to work now. Now, that being said, Shane's just going to probably end up being WWE Champion. That's probably what's going to end up happening. I don't blame you for being done with this company. If it wasn't for the fact that so many of those reviews got clicks, I get like 400 views plus, between SmackDown and Raw on a slow week. That's how fucking good, those videos do. So that's part of the reason I watch. But also, I like a good portion of the talent, but the product is so boring creatively that it's hard to stay invested. And Shane is not, is not worth the time. He's not. So, again, WWE Champion for Shane is probably what it's going to be. By SummerSlam. And everything will burn. Number 4. Question number 4. Her final one. Have you seen Dana Brooke's recent progress in the ring? I think she has solid potential to be a top babyface in the next year or two. I did. I don't know if she could be a top babyface. I will say she has proved me wrong. She has improved in the ring. She has put in the work, and that is good. I'm glad that she recovered from what looked like it'd be a pretty horrific injury that she suffered in a match with Sarah Logan. Not Sarah Logan's fault. Accidents happen. But yeah, I saw that, and I saw the promos she cut. I don't know if promos are necessarily her thing, but as far as being able to go in the ring, she has improved. Now, I don't know if she'll ever be a top babyface, but she could be an upper mid-card babyface. Now, that means that as some women maybe phase out, if they phase Natty out or have Natty be a trainer / NXT performer, that kind of stuff. And I'm not trying to write Natty off, but Natty's been there for 10 damn years. If they do the same with Alicia, if they have Alicia play, player coach, so to speak, and that kind of stuff, if they free up spots. And where has Alicia been, by the way? Anybody know where Alicia's been? I mean, I don't know. But my whole point is with Dana, yes, she's young enough, they can do some good things with her if she can get better. And she has gotten better. Promos, once again, I don't necessarily know if they're her thing, but they did have a Raw exclusive promo, and actually, I will say she did pretty damn well. And I did see, like, a Swanton or Senton that she did. in a clip from a match on Main Event. And if she's improving like that, yes, she can do pretty well. So I don't know if she's ever going to be as great as they, thought she would be. But I'll say that she's way better than I expected her to be. I actually like the progress she was making with Emma back in 2015, 2016. Before they split that whole shit up. I actually thought that was a great way to bring Dana along. And then Dana being, slot in to be the kind of bodyguard, whatever, with Charlotte. That was fine. That was some good shit. It's such good shit. It's kind of like a tick. I now have to say it. I thought that was good, and then they kind of just, had Dana fall off a goddamn cliff, and then she just became a fucking jobber. And if she's been putting in the work and can get better, great. I am absolutely all here for it. Now we get to some more questions, and I will go through as many of these as detailed, but as quickly as possible, and then I'll get to some other questions here. So just so you know, we got about another 16 minutes left. So Abby VX, biggest moment that made you cringe in wrestling besides Katie Vick? I'm glad you put that because Katie Vick would have been the first choice. The Heidenreich Poetry Slam with Michael Cole would be one. It was just so wrong. It's so wrong. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's from I want to say September of 2004 or something like that. Oh, looked like a prison rape scene. And it was uncomfortable because I'm just I don't know what's happening. But for different reasons, CM Punk singing Happy Birthday to Ray's daughter, Aaliyah. Just skin-crawlingly awful, but just, it's so great because just the look he has on his goddamn face is just absolutely amazing. But I'm going to go to, Claire Lynch would be an obvious one. The Rusev, Lana, Summer Rae, Ziggler thing, that they did, that was cringeworthy. I'm going to go with two. Well, no, Lashley's sisters. Lashley's sisters made me cringe. That was pretty bad, but two angles. Lex Luger gained a massive push over Bret Hart because Lex Luger was seen as, another tall blonde doofus that did not have the charisma of Hogan. As much as I knock Hogan, even now, that guy had charisma. It boiled down to a lot of sound bites and a lot of bullshit, but he had charisma. Luger didn't. And instead of going with the ready-made, made-from-scratch superstar that Vince had in Bret Hart, that the fans wanted to see as champion, no, he went with Lex, and it damaged the company for a while. And that's part of the reason why maybe even back then Vince wasn't necessarily a genius. He did eventually relent and went back to Bret, but it did some damage to the company. Well, that and giving Hogan the title at WrestleMania 9, but I digress. That made me cringe, and also the Booker T Triple H storyline made me cringe. Someone like you will never be champion. People like you are here to make people like me laugh. Do a little. It's like people. It's like people. You're to do a dance and make people like me laugh. He throws money at him and tells Booker to fetch him a towel. But it was a WCW storyline. I did that last year, by the way. I talked about that angle in Triple H's Reign of Terror. You check that out on my rants playlist. You'll see what I mean. Might have to scroll through a lot, but anyway. Really, really quickly, some of you guys may notice, if you guys are longtime subscribers, I deleted a bunch of older videos from late 2015 into 2016. Into mid 2016. Part of the reason is they did such low views, I had no reason to keep them. So I'm trying to clean up the channel and make it to where everything's better and more streamlined. So I'm working on that stuff. But anyway, those would be the moments that make me cringe, Abby. And Abby, great, always great talking to you. Let me know what you thought of Annabelle Comes Home. Let me know on Twitter what you thought of that. Noah is safe. And here's the question about the Sonya Mandy storyline. I didn't realize I wrote down here already. What do you think about an LGBTQ storyline? I know you didn't include the Q. I'm including the Q just because sometimes I forget about that. But anyway, LGBTQ storyline with Mandy and Sonya. Sonya falls for Mandy, but Mandy takes Mandia. It's Mandia Mania running wild. Mandy takes advantage of her, using her, leading to Sonya finally turning face. If done right, I'm okay with it. But this is going to be the first, basically, full-on lesbian storyline that they've done that isn't tasteless. Because they did something with Tori Wilson and Dawn Marie that wasn't very good. And then they did an indecent proposal match with Billy Gunn, Tori, Jamie Noble, and Nydia that was uncomfortable. Whatever. I don't care. People can, if you're a consenting adult, you want to get with another consenting adult, you want to get down, I don't care how you do it. Love is love. That's all I'm going to say. But those storylines were uncomfortable. And then the Trish Mickey thing from late 05 to about Mania 06. I enjoyed that stuff because it was unrequited and it was just like a stalker angle, which I thought was really cool. But as for this, romance angles don't always work out that well in WWE because they're really idiots when it comes to romance. Vince does not know what romance is. It's such good shit. They're women and they're kissing. Yes. That's basically what he would say, essentially. I don't think Vince is sensitive enough to understand that. I will say with Sonya being the first openly gay woman in wrestling, I mean, because Darren Young was the first openly gay man in wrestling. If you don't count Pat Patterson was, even if he didn't admit it, we all knew. We didn't care. Care maybe about how Pat Patterson was backstage and how much of a creep he was, but whatever. That's another story. It has nothing to do with sexuality. Anyway, with Sonya, yes, I can see them doing this. If they handle it right, I'm okay with it. The problem is, they already did something with Mandy trying to get with Naomi's husband earlier this year that I did not think was very good television. It just wasn't very good television because it did nothing for either performer. Anybody remember the end game of that? I think Mandy beat Naomi in like a couple minutes on SmackDown. That's it? That's the end game? Really? That was pretty fucking stupid. Why invest all that time and then blow it off in a 2-minute match? That's the thing about the women. That's why they need to use the women better. If you have all these smart, talented, athletic, and beautiful women, you know, whatever your preference is, I don't really give a shit, then use them better, and maybe you could draw some women in there, and you could draw some men in there. And if you use Sonya correctly, you could draw some, women who like, some bi or lesbian fans in there. Or you could draw many from the LGBTQ community, because it's like, hey, she's one of us, she's part of the community, maybe we can do this, or maybe we can get invested in wrestling. And then they'll piss the fans off the next week with doing a whole revival shaving the back thing and making homophobia stuff, with the Usos, or making fun of them, using, homophobic undertones and everything. Not the Usos, but just Vince's writing. And then they'll turn off the fans and that ratings boost will be gone. But that's what Vince does. He just does car crash TV now. And I'm not talking about Russo. Vince McMahon changes his mind all too much. Sonya would be a perfect choice to do something like this. I would be totally for it. I just don't think WWE is going to be very smart with it. If this leads to, and I think it was in a discussion with Noah and Kier, if Sonya ends up helping Mandy win the title, and then Mandy, it turns out, just used her, then Sonya wins the title from her a little bit later, sure, I'm totally fine with that. They just need to do it well, because if they don't handle this right, and I'm not saying with kids' gloves, but handle it well and handle it with genuine purpose, then okay, because we know Mandy and Sonya are friends. If they don't do it correctly, then we could end up having some, problems later. And it may end up biting them in the ass, and we really don't want that. So I'm for it if they handle it right. But right now, if you saw the review that myself and Dervinator did for SmackDown, I'm not for it because I don't think they're going to handle it right. I hope I'm wrong. If Sonya and Mandy sign off on this, and want to do it, I'm for it. And then we go to, and I already answered WWE NXT guys question. Kira_Johnson97. Why do you think fans constantly point out WWE's low attendance and then say nothing when they do sell out an arena? I agree with you, by the way. I point back to Stomping Grounds, which of course is where we kicked ass and took names. Only having about 6,000 people in the Tacoma Dome, apparently. That's a 23,000 seat arena. And then Angel of the Winds, arena for Raw in Everett, 3,500 people, 10,000 seat arena. SmackDown, 19,000 seat venue. Even if it was just gauged for like 10,000, 2,000, 1,500 to 2,000 people, that's not good. Here's why WWE's low attendance figures are getting pointed out. For years, people did that with Impact's pay-per-views when they were running pay-per-views in big arenas and this kind of stuff in their TV tapings, especially during the Hogan era and even a bit after the Hogan era. People did it with Impact. People did it with Ring of Honor. WWE is supposed to be the biggest game in town where their brand is selling it and people want to see them. That is why people are doing it. Now, as for them selling out an arena, sure, they're going to sell out at WrestleMania, or they're going to do well for Royal Rumble, or they're going to do well for SummerSlam, or they'll do well for their big events, or even their Raws after Mania, Raws after SummerSlam, some others, Money in the Bank, that kind of stuff. They will do well for some of their pay-per-views, and they should get credit when they sell out an arena. The problem is they're supposed to be the biggest company with all this money, all this good shit, and the best wrestling on the planet. Bullshit, Seth. Maybe the best talent roster, but not the best wrestling, because you guys aren't allowed to go out there and do that. and well, Seth, other wrestlers don't come up short like you do. They deserve to get this point out to them. Because if they're going to have these kind of issues, then they can't be seen as just bulletproof. They have to have their flaws pointed out. That is my personal opinion. I totally get what you're saying. They should be praised for when they sell out an arena. They aren't doing that anymore because people don't want to buy the tickets. The ticket prices are too much. They aren't doing enough to draw people in. The ratings are falling. Arenas are not selling out. They're going to have to start running smaller places like they did in 94, 95, 96, even 93, 94, 95, 96, even 97 to an extent, to cut costs. Wrestling, while popular, is not able to sell out arenas on a continuous basis like it did. I don't even know what AEW is going to do, and I know AEW isn't part of the question. I don't know what AEW is going to do, but they're going to have to stick to some smaller venues and do some big TV tapings here and there and for pay-per-views, but they're going to have to go to a smaller model to build up interest and then go for it. WWE, they're supposed to be the biggest game in town. If they can't sell out this stuff, then who can? And they've built up this reputation of being the biggest wrestling company in the world. So they deserve some of the criticism. But I do totally get what you're saying. And then, Bio Burrow, you asked, I'm just going to let you know, you asked 8 questions and comments. I'm going to do a couple here, and then I'm going to do the rest on another one. Just letting you know that. So these are the final 2 questions, though. Star Wars movie series, is a question about Star Wars movie series villains. Fave to least fave, Darth Maul, Count Dooku, General Grievous, Evil Anakin, Vader, Tarkin, Darth Sidious, Kylo Ren, Snoke. I will say, obviously, Vader is number 1. I will say that I would say Kylo Ren's almost got to be number 2. Kylo Ren's almost got to be number 2. Snoke, number 3. Darth Sidious, I will say number 4. Grievous, number 5. He's right in the middle. Darth Maul, number 6. Snoke I liked, but Snoke just seemed a little too silly to me. But no, I'll say Snoke, number 6. Darth Maul, number 7. Dooku, even though I like Christopher Lee. And then Tarkin, number 9. And I'm sorry if I answered that really, really quick. Vader's got to be number 1. Come on, he's the most iconic one. But Kylo Ren, I think they could do a lot of deep stuff with him to finish off Episode 9. Grievous, they fleshed him out more in the animated series, as I've been told. I've never actually been able to watch the animated series. I'm sorry, I don't have the time. Sorry. But as for those, I will say that Vader's obviously got to be number 1. But I think Adam Driver's Kylo Ren is actually a pretty deep character they could explore pretty well. Darth Sidious, obviously, speaks for himself. And I know it sounds like I'm dumping on Snoke, but I remember when I first saw him, I just kept laughing, because I'm just like, he doesn't look like he should be able to do anything. But, you get, of course, Emperor Palpatine, all this kind of stuff. And I know there's different names for a whole bunch of others or whatever, so forgive me for not being up on my Star Wars lore. But that's the kind of stuff that I would be, that's how I would rank them mainly. Vader, and Vader obviously number 1, and everybody else below him. And then, final question. Taker's, 3 more Taker's matches kind of based off of what you did about Mass Kane, Diesel, and Giant Gonzalez when you asked me about that. Other Mania matches of his, based on the build and, the match quality and all that stuff and everything. Flair WrestleMania 18, Batista WrestleMania 23, and Punk at WrestleMania 29. Okay, build, the Punk one goes number 1. Batista goes number 2. Well, actually, no. Flair will go number 2, Batista goes number 3. Match quality, Flair's number 1. I love the Undertaker Ric Flair match at WrestleMania 18. Now, I love the Punk one also, and I feel bad for putting the Batista one number 3, but it's good as what now. It should have been further up on the card, I will say that much. That Batista match should have been way further up on the card. But that being said, it was not like, oh God, it's this. It was like this, absolute blow-away match. Had it been further up on the card, it might not have been seen as great as it was. So I will say the Punk match for build is number 1. The Flair match for match quality is number 1. And then the Batista match is below. So it's like Flair number 1 for match quality, Punk, and then Batista. And then Punk, Flair, and then Batista. And it's not that the Batista Undertaker build was bad, but just out of those 3 that you suggested, that would be the one that I would suggest right there. That would be exactly how I would work. That's how I would rank them right there. So I'm going to leave that off right here. So I am going to answer more questions in the upcoming episode. And basically, I'm almost out of time here. So anyway, thank you guys so much. Once again, if you want to leave comments and ask me more questions, leave comments below this video. Let's, from now on, after this, unless I say otherwise, 3 to 4. And then that way I can give, your questions an equal amount of time. But agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritland. I will see you soon.